Welcome back to Tell Me More for Run Radio. My name is Trina Wilcox, and our guest today is Mac McGregor. Welcome.
Thank you, Trina. Good to be here.
Yeah, you are like a person with a wealth of knowledge. You could speak to several topics that we cover on Run Radio, writing, and just a plethora of things that you've been doing on projects. But I'll let you tell me about that. So jump right in.
Well, about 4 years ago now, I got this crazy download from the universe. I was watching the Me Too movement happen, and I was seeing how women were talking about how the patriarchy and toxic masculinity had hurt them and limited them, uh, and I didn't see any men involved in this conversation, with the exception of a few that were fighting back, saying negative things, right?
Right.
And so I didn't see any men talking about how the patriarchy and toxic masculinity has also limited men, you know, uh, because I think a lot of guys hadn't thought about it, right? And men talking about we need a healthier model of this to move forward for all of us. So I had this download of a whole bunch of different type of men with different backgrounds, different ages, different life experiences getting together to work on creating a healthier model of masculinity for all of us. And that's when I started this men's discussion group and the company Positive Masculinity. And so I called a buddy of mine, and I knew he had had experience with toxic masculinity because he had a toxic father growing up that he had told me stories about, had given him a very hard time. And so I thought he would probably understand this and want to do this work with me. And he was in on it right away when I explained it to him. And so we started a men's discussion group about how these limiting ways of thinking have held men back. For instance, uh, traditional masculinity has not been accepting of even all types of men, right? If
Okay.
you're artsy, if you're more intellectual, if you're tender at all, you're not accepted by that traditional model of masculinity. The Rocky Balboas and the guys like The Rock, those guys are accepted, right? The physical prowess guys, but
Right.
guys like Fred Rogers wouldn't so much be accepted in that model, so we started this discussion group, and it's just grown, and what has come out of it has been just amazing, which led me to writing the book Positive
Oh,
Masculinity Now. And talking about how that limited ways of thinking have held us back, and in fact it's made us always, for instance, here's a message that men get growing up: you should always be competitive. It's a dog eat dog world, right? We have to walk over people to play king of the hill our whole lives, which keeps us from being collaborative and working together more. And so
right.
that's a very limiting message, right? So that's just one of the types of messages that we talk about and try to work through, peeling back the layers of our socialization around gender and what we're supposed to be a man, to find a healthier way for all of us is what I'm
So,
doing.
so what did some of the first groups look like, and how they have they changed from the
Oh yeah.
beginning?
Yes. So some of the first groups were mainly, we put out on social media to meet, and it takes a certain kind of brave guy to step in to do this kind of introspective work we're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we weren't invited him to talk about sports and work. So, so
Oh,
that scares a lot of guys, right? That we're going to
yeah.
talk about interpersonal things, right? So the first group was a small group, about 10 guys who really wanted to, they're growth minded people, basically. People who cared about doing things that made you look inside and make some changes and question some things. And now it's grown. Now we have people from all over. For one thing, it was based in Seattle, small group in Seattle, and now we're virtual, so we have people from all over joining, different ages, different backgrounds. Yeah, it's really interesting how the work has spread out. I mean, we have people from 18 years old, I would say, to in their 80s.
Do
So,
you feel like this is something, though, that the younger, real young age group could definitely benefit from as they're, going through the stages?
yeah, if we could start, getting people to ask these questions while they're being socialized around this.
Right.
Although socialization starts very young, right? Little boys are told very young, don't cry, be a, you need to be tough because you were born a boy. You're not supposed to show emotion. You're not supposed to ever show fear. That kind of thing starts very young. So, but yeah, I think the younger we start these conversations and help guys even do things that create healthy masculine friendships. One of the things about the messaging that keeps us from having real healthy masculine friendships is that competitive message that I can't show weakness, so I can't share real things with my friends, right? if I'm
Mm-hmm.
if I'm if I'm sad or a little down about something, or I can't share that because that shows a weakness, right? That's very limiting to us in all of our relationships. And then you get into a relationship, an intimate relationship, and somebody says, "Well, you're not emotionally available to me." Well,
Didn't know I was supposed to be.
right. I've been told my
Right.
whole life to tamp that down, right? So
Yeah. So what was your personal experience with it? It sounds like, did you have to do the homework to figure out the range, or had you always had that in you? Or were you one of those that were told, no, don't cry, buck up, let's go, cowboy?
well, yeah, my background is as a professional athlete, so you add the normal messaging to being in an athlete, and in the world of sports, it's even more. You always have to look tough. You always have to be strong. So it's an extra layer of that. And especially I was in a contact sport. I was on the U.S. karate team. So that makes it, it's a warrior type thing. So it's even more never show weakness message.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I had to work through that myself. And I'm just a very growth minded person. I mean, I started reading books about, life, books that most young people don't read. When I was 16 and 17, I was reading things like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and Leo Buscaglia. And, I was reading self-help books. I was trying to figure out, what is the meaning of life? What is
Mm-hmm.
this existence about? I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was definitely a growth minded person. So that helped my journey a lot. Yeah.
Do you feel like you've gotten those answers, or do you just feel like you have more questions, maybe better questions?
Definitely better questions.
Okay.
And I feel like I have some answers. Like now I have a philosophy for my life. And one of the things I talk to the guys about in the group and in our work is that we as adults can make our own life's philosophy. We don't have to just go along roguely with what we were taught and fed as young people. We have the right as a conscious adult to make our own choices about how we want to live our life, how we walk in the world, what our belief system is, because all of that, it affects so much. It affects how we judge ourselves. It affects how we treat others. It affects how we walk in the world. So it's so important for us to do that consciously. I ask people all the time, how much of your thinking is really your own thinking?
And I think that we even need to ask ourselves that, like, wait,
Totally. Yeah.
is this really what I feel?
Right.
Is this really
Yeah.
what I would think if I were away from a certain group or
That's right.
mixed in with another? And it's difficult, especially when, typically we're at an 8 to 5 or in an office that not always you will be on the same page with, and that can shape how we change and think and grow.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But to see one another's humanness and to see that most of us want the same things out of life, right? Most
Right.
of us want to be happy. We want to be healthy. We want to have access to education and to healthcare and for our kids to have good schools and things like that. Most of us want the same things. So when you break it down, you know,
Yeah. How do
and
we
feel
get
and to
there?
feel safe and to
Yes.
feel safe in our lives, right? Yeah.
What kind of feedback and support have you gotten from the females that have learned about
I have
positive
so
masculinity?
many women love the work we're doing. In fact, some of the guys in our group have been sent by the women in their lives.
Really good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Whether it be their girlfriend or wife or sister or just a good friend that says, "Hey, I think you'd really benefit from this." It's very funny. I have women that ask me, "How do I give your book, Positive Masculinity, now to men in my life without offending them that they need positive masculinity?"
So what do you say?
Yeah, my answer to that is that a lot of the exercises and things I talk about in the book, even though the word masculinity is in the title, they work for everyone because it's about going back and examining your socialization and social conditioning. And so that can benefit anyone. And so I tell women, say, I've learned some things from what Mac talks about in this, and so that have helped me. So I really want to share them. with others that I care about, so that's a good way to, it takes the pointed finger away. You know?
What would you say the percentage of communication is involved in, growing with this process? Is that a big piece of it, or is it not as much?
It is a big piece of it, but I think even a bigger element to this work is giving men a safe space, a safe container where they can open up with other men. See,
Mhm.
most of the emotional burden for what's going on with men tends to lie on the women in their life, because that's the only person they'll open up to and feel safe opening up to,
Mhm.
right? Um, and women are exhausted and overwhelmed, and they shouldn't have to carry that burden all by themselves, right? For
Right.
being the emotional support of every man in their life, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I talk to the guys about. But where are the safe spaces for guys to to talk about real things in their life, you just talk about the things they're sad about, their fears, their grief, you know where are those safe spaces? So that's the magic of what I've created, is that safe space. And I think that it's so important, because once one man in the group opens up and shares something real and sees he's not going to get ridiculed or made fun of or policed by the other guys for not being a tough enough guy, right? That he's getting support from the other guys in the group, then it's amazing what happens. Then they all start opening up, because I think most men long for that kind of camaraderie, that kind of brotherhood, that kind of feeling supported. And it's just that there aren't that many spaces for that.
Tell me about one of the toughest cases you've had, one of the burliest, hard-headed that you thought was going to be coming into this and maybe even resistant, and how he turned around.
Oh, this is a great story. There's a guy that I was advertising our monthly group on social media, and a guy started the conversation. Why do you have, if this is a men's group, why do you have pink in the logo? And he started just going on about, well, my buddy and I, Drew, specifically put pink in the logo to turn the thing on its head. Of, it has to, you have to be a tough guy, we were making a joke about, real men can wear pink, right? Like, it's like this whole ridiculous stereotype, right? And so he started like attacking the pink in the logo, and I came on there, and all these people jumped on him in the social media post. It ended up like this mile-long thing, and it was mainly women jumping on him. See, it's guys like you, why there needs to be a group like this. So
Oh
he
my
started getting
goodness.
attacked, right? And so I went on there and just said, this is why we put pink in the logo, because we were wanting to call attention to the stereotypical messaging around men and gender. And we were poking fun at it. We were literally poking fun at it by putting pink in the logo. And then he was like, oh, because I didn't attack him and I just stated what it is, he started having a conversation with me. Well, he ended up start coming to our group. I was surprised to see him show up at the next month's meeting, and his adult son started coming to the group as well. Yeah, this like 20-year-old adult son started coming as well. One of the biggest success stories, because the son has then written a blog for us, which we have blogs on our website. Anybody can write a blog for us. We have a way to submit and blog guidelines on there. His adult son reached out to me and said, after a few months in the group, like 6 months, and said, this group has changed my relationship with my father. Before, we never talked about anything real. We were even uncomfortable hugging one another. It was just this really awkward thing, because we were very different. He said, I'm more artsy, and my dad's more of a hunter, fisher, man's man. And we just never related to each other and didn't have a good relationship. And he said, now we actually talk about real things, and we can hug each other and feel good about it. And it's like, he's like, it's totally transformed their relationship, which that, is one of the things that warms my heart. And it's the kind of thing that makes me get up to do the work again the next day.
No
Right.
kidding. That is a great story.
Yeah.
Where do you want to see this go? What's the next step?
Well, I want to train facilitators all
Okay.
over. It's really interesting, when you write a book, you put it out there and it just is a far reaching thing, right? It's pretty amazing how it can go all over the world in a short amount of time. I mean, I only published it in June, and it's just already, I have had people contacting me from all over the world. And I even had a guy from Uruguay email me and ask if he could Zoom with me. And we got on a Zoom and he said, I just love your book and what you're doing. And he says, I want to know how to start a group like that here in Uruguay. I know a lot of guys that would benefit from this. And that's when I said, well, I need to train facilitators to do this all over, because yes, it's great that we can do it virtually, but of course there's something special about, when you can actually look at each other face to face
Sure.
and create friendships within the group that you can then do things with. Like we have a Positive Masculinity fall hike coming up here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, everybody that joins us virtually can't be in the Pacific Northwest to go on a day hike with us, right?
Right.
But we want those types of things to happen all over. So we're developing a facilitator training right now. So that's one of the big visions I have to going forward.
It sounds very, very cool, and it very needed in times like we're going through today. Tell people where they can go to jump in and read this book and get connected with you.
Yeah, thank you. The book is Positive Masculinity Now, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle and in print. And then toward the end of the year here, I'm going into the studio to record the audio version of it, because I
Oh,
know for a lot of people, that's the way they take books in.
yes.
And so, yeah, I'm going to be doing that. I've heard from other writers, that's a tough couple of weeks in a cave recording, but yeah, I'm going to knock it out. So,
You can do it.
and positivemasculinitynow.org is our website. And you can find out about our group. You can come virtually. It's the second Tuesday of every month. And we're just getting ready to launch our first ever essay contest. I'm so excited about this. When we turn on the news, almost all we hear about men in the masculine in the world is violence, right? It's violent acts. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of light shined on positive masculine role models. And so our essay contest, anybody can write, of any gender, ages 11 and up. We have different age categories for the contest that you can find out about more on our website and sign up there. It's about a positive masculine role model in your life and the impact they've had on you.
Ah,
And that's what the subject of the essay is. It's called Who's the Man? And basically, who's the man in your life that has made a positive impact is what we're asking people. And we just want to shine a light on the fact that there are also good men in the world doing good things, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah. So you can enter that contest from October 1st to December 1st. And then early January, we will be announcing the winners.
Very cool. Well, I wish you the best, and I hope you'll come back when you have another project going. It's been fun talking with you.
Thank you, Trina. Thanks for having me. Yes, it's been a great chat.
All right. Thank you so much.